Hey, beautiful beings. This is Lindsay Banks, and today I'm here with Kate Brown, founder of the Offgrid Community Network UK. Welcome, Kate.
Hello, Lindsay. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So, Kate, you set up this group on Telegram, which is a completely different platform to Facebook, Instagram, etc. And do you want to tell us the reasons why you set this group up initially?
Yeah, it all came about kind of by accident, but you know, often I think accidents are the best things. Give the best results. So I was in a stand-up Yorkshire group with quite a few other people. You know, there's a lot of groups out there who are there to kind of wake up the sleeping masses and stuff at the moment to what's going on. And I wanted to be supportive in that, but I'm not a protester. I really just don't have the temperament to deal with the police and stuff, and I just get myself in trouble. So, you know, we were kind of like, what else can we do to kind of help things move along? And a lot of us were talking about how, you know, we were interested in the off-grid lifestyle and getting off-grid. It's something I've wanted to do for a few years anyway. So we kind of all got together and I said, well, look, let's, you know, this was on a Telegram group. So I said, let's open a group just so we can talk about it. And we're not blocking up a protest feed with, you know, us talking about how we want to live in the wilderness. So we set that group up. There were 17 of us to start with. And we had, we were all from Yorkshire. We met up the first month and it was absolutely awesome. And actually what I realized is we didn't all just want to chat about off-grid stuff. We all genuinely wanted to move off-grid and live differently. So that was a realization. And then people started sharing the link. And we realized it wasn't just people in Yorkshire, it was people all over the country. You know, we realized that actually we needed to rethink what we were doing. This wasn't going to be a few of us setting up a little community in Yorkshire anymore. And the way that we think about it is that we're looking at, rather than being, you know, the movement that's trying to wake people up and make them realize what's going on, that's going to happen. You know, people are going to wake up, they're going to realize that, you know, their lives don't have the meaning that they could. You know, and that living in harmony with nature can give you so much to your life, which I think a lot of people who live in the city just don't know. I certainly didn't before I, you know, had an experience. So we then looked at, right, how can we do this as something that's countrywide? And that was kind of how the network was born. So the idea is that there will be different communities who are all wanting to be independent of the government, to make their own choices about their health and their lifestyles and everything really, and to be free to have that connection with nature that's been taken away from us.
So you only set this group up though, didn't you, like at the beginning of lockdown? Was it March 2020? You were like, right, that's it.
It wasn't, do you know, it wasn't, it was a bit later. It was actually like June, July.
Okay. Yeah. Oh wow, so not that long ago.
Yeah, so it all came about very quickly, and now we've got over 400 members. And I mean, that's just in we've got quite a system now of our group, the group that I run, which is allocations, and the whole point of that is you come in, you fill out a questionnaire, and then we allocate you to either focus groups that are interested in the same sort of things as you are. So be that like mobile living or buying land, or even getting access to land without capital. We've also recently set up local groups as well, so people can connect up locally and have meetings and you know, help each other out if things get bad. And then we also have quite a few people who've set up groups that are communities that we kind of feed into. So that's going quite well, and actually 2 of them have just linked up, and I think that they might be our first southern community. So
that's exciting.
Yeah,
I know, because it's like I can't even remember, Kate, how I ended up being in like as part of your group. But as soon as I came into it, I was like, oh my God, I love this, because like I'd had this vision ages ago, you know, that this was something I wanted to do. And I was like, I just kept being told, you know, I need to set up a wellbeing center, and it needs to be a community, and there's workshops, and there's this. And the more that I was talking about it, the more that people were just like sending me stuff. Do you know what I mean? So being part of this off-grid group on Telegram, for me, it's like being able to see that there's other people out there that are having similar visions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And connections as well. So like, you used to be a nurse, didn't you? You used to work in the NHS, didn't you, a long time ago?
For my sins, yes.
Do you want to tell us about your
Oh.
NHS journey beforehand? Because you've not always been someone who's like, I'm going off grid and that's it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh
You've
yeah,
never,
no,
you've never run a business before, have you?
no,
So
I was very much in the system for many, many years. I was brought up by a teacher and a nurse, so I went into nursing, children's nursing, which I loved the actual job of looking after children.
yeah.
I always struggled with the bureaucracy and the box ticking and all of that sort of stuff, because I felt it took time away from helping the patients. I kind of muddled through, to be honest. I found it all very stressful. I had to have a load of I had to have a Hep B vaccine in order to start working at a hospital. And a couple of months later, I felt really, really unwell. And I ended up getting diagnosed 8 months later with chronic fatigue syndrome. And this was only sort of 2 years after qualifying. I went through stages of, I often say to people, I was bedbound on and off for about 8 years, which I was, but it was in sort of 3-month stints. So I'd just be so exhausted that I couldn't do anything. And I'd always continued to work as a nurse, just doing bank shifts in different places. My health did start to improve a little bit around 2012, so I went back to work full time. But the problem is that I would go to work for 6 months and then I'd have to take 3 months off because I was so exhausted. So it was, you know, counterproductive, really. Then in late 2013, I went on a vaccination course because I took a job as a school nurse, and obviously vaccinations is part of the job there. And because it was a school nurse's job, as a nurse in a hospital before, it was not something I'd ever had to do or come across or look at. And I got sent on the NHS vaccination course to teach you how to, I thought, administer vaccines and make sure that people were properly informed about them. I was absolutely shocked to see that that wasn't the case. That we did 2 days and it was all about how to coerce parents who didn't want to vaccinate their children.
Oh my God.
How to look at how you can make a child Gillick competent, or declare them Gillick competent, so that they can override their parents' wishes to have a vaccine.
Wow.
Nothing was about actually the administration. They never told us what was in it. Like, we never went through the ingredients and discussed what the side effects were, so that we could then pass that on to parents. Do you know what I mean? It was very and me being me, I've always been a bit of a cage rattler and tend to put my foot in it. I think, to be honest, had I not worked part-time for the NHS for 8 years, I probably would have lost my job a lot sooner. But I kind of stood up and said, well, why is all of this stuff that we're, you know, it's like we're taking psychological warfare on these families for making an informed choice. Surely all we have to make sure they do is that their choice is informed. That's our job. You know, is there no more information you can give us? I feel this is a bit. I got back to my office 20 minutes later and got pulled in by my manager to be told that I didn't go to any training where she didn't find out what was said, and that I need to learn to know my place.
Oh my God.
There's nothing I don't find out about, Kate. And
Wowzers.
that's when the problem started.
Yeah.
And I was basically managed out.
Yeah.
You know, it's something people talk about, and it's just basically where your manager goes out of their way to make your life hell until you leave. Now, knowing that I took that job because my previous school nursing job was in Doncaster, and it was an hour and a half travel there and an hour and a half back, and it was just exhausted me and made my chronic fatigue so much worse. So I said, you know, the reason I've applied for this job is so that I'm near home. A week later, they moved my base to an hour away from my house rather than 10 minutes, and just sat and waited for me to go downhill.
Oh, that's so awful.
Added extra pressure they had me on report at the beginning of January. And by March, I was just so exhausted. I was making mistakes. And I made a error with some paperwork where we were sending forms off to parents to sign, consent forms of some sort. And most of them were 3 or 4 pages. One child was only 1 page. And on the printer, it stuck to the back of the other pages, and I sent it off. So I sent 2 children's stuff to 1 parent. You know, and I broke confidentiality. I feel absolutely horrific about it. But I challenge anybody else to have functioned any better under those circumstances, really. So then they had the excuse they needed to suspend me. At which point, you know, I loved my job and I cared about my patients. Like, you know, some of those kids they didn't have a voice. That's what we were there for, or that's what we should have been there for. And yeah, coming up against this sort of like hard line, it was like the army, you know, ask no questions, do as you're told, don't apply reason. And it was just it broke my heart, really, because I feel like I believed in the NHS. I did. I don't anymore. So after that, I had a fun little mental breakdown and another relapse, which put me in bed for about a year. A friend of mine came to visit one day, and he'd not been to my house before. We'd not seen each other for ages, and he came round and he said, oh, I had two windows in my living room, one facing out the front and the other facing out the back garden. And he said, what's behind those curtains? I'm like, no, don't look behind the curtains, don't. And he opened the curtains. He's like, Kate, you've got this huge garden. I'm like, yeah, but it's really overgrown and I'm too tired to deal with it, and it just depresses me. He said, well, I did landscape gardening course a bit ago. Do you want me to do it? I've got some free time. That man, Ry Thompson, by the way, saved my life. He got me out in that garden. He completely re-landscaped it and gutted it for me. And he gave me a place to spend time with nature. And I got better. And the more time that I spent out there, and the more mentally capable I felt, and the more you know, and obviously this I improved so much with my health, but they had me on a lot of really heavy medication, because that's how the NHS deal with it, to make their pharma money. And because I was naive and uneducated, even as a nurse, you know, I didn't know that was the system. I didn't, you know, when they were telling me that I needed to take all of these really heavy medications, I thought it was because they genuinely thought they would help me. And it got to a point where, you know, when, as I say, my friend came round, where, I mean, I don't think I'd got out of bed for days and days. And luckily my loo was only like 2 feet away, so I'd sort of wobble over there and then back again. But I was physically very disabled. All of my joints had seized up. I couldn't move. I couldn't bend over. It was agonizing and depressing every day. But there was a time when I never thought I would get better. And after my friend sorted my garden out, that disappeared, because I knew that I would. and then in 2016, I went to see my friend up in Mull, on the Isle of Mull in Scotland, who was living in an off-grid. It was like an activity centre. They'd get kids in from the city to, you know, show them what living off-grid was like and take them kayaking and mountain climbing and stuff. So I went there and I stayed in a little hut in the woods. And I've never, ever been happier. And I came back a different person and knew that that was how I wanted to live. You know, they would eat together and cook together. And, you know, I was so just unbelievably inspired by it all. And that was the moment I knew this is the part I want to take in life. So since then, I've done lots and lots of volunteer gardening at community gardens and allotments and all of this sort of stuff to learn as much as I can. And then, yeah, this year we set this group up, and I'm always blown away by just the skills and the knowledge of all of the people that have got involved. Like it really is.
It's awesome.
It's been a gift this year, definitely. And I think that I think this year could have gone a lot differently. I don't know, I had something positive to focus on.
Yeah, I know it's funny because I keep having conversations with people about, you know, going off grid, and they're like, well, if I have my own hut and, you know, I'm going to grow my own veg and I'm going to do this, and I'm like, the thing for me, and I don't know how you feel about this, about going off grid, is that we don't have to be able to do everything. Like if you said to me, right, Lindsay, there's your land, off you go, I'll be like, I don't know how to build a hut. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to grow vegetables. I would be like, where's my team? Where's, like, do you know what I mean? Where are the experts? And my feeling is with this off-grid stuff is that in order for us to get there, it's like we need to get to know each other first of all. We need to be building these relationships and connections, which is what the group is obviously doing. Do you know what I mean? People are getting to know each other and where they are. But also it's like, what are you good at? Do you know what I mean? What skills do you have which are going to be able to help us work together to be able to do this? Is that sort of your feeling?
Yeah, and absolutely. The I would say, you know, no skills are obsolete. No skills are pointless. Everybody has got something that they can bring, and even if it's just a willingness to do a bit of graft and work and chip in with your community. But equally, you know, we've got quite a few people with disabilities and stuff that are wanting to get off grid, and you know, they may not physically be able to do the same amount of work, but then they can offer, you know, loads of other things in different areas that, you know, don't involve physical labor at the end of the day. And you know, it's as important to have gardeners and people who can build houses as it is to have counsellors and light practitioners. And you know, so you every community needs that really good mix of people. And that's hopefully one of the things that we want to do on the network, is that as the communities get set up, you know, they can come to us and say, we really need, you know, this many gardeners and somebody who can decorate our house, and you know, so that we'll be able to say, right, contact this person because they'll do it for trade, or you know, for even just the option to stay on your land and get one meal a day. You know, most people are quite happy for that. We've just opened a new group that's referred to as the community setup team. So they're going to be doing a lot of research and work around the best ways to go about setting up communities from you know, a sociological perspective as well as a physical perspective.
Yeah, because there's lots of like different ways. Like, I mean, I've researched this to the hilt myself. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of different ways of setting up community. You know, there's community land trust, and there's different forms that you can have in different structures, etc. But for me at the minute, I'm like, the biggest block I feel for many people in the group is the finances. It's like, how can we afford the land and how can we afford the space, which I feel will be dealt with, do you know what I mean? But I don't know the how yet. But there's also like, for me, I'm like, right, if I can't yet live on a piece of land with the community that I want to, it's like, how can I create community in my neighborhood? Do you know what I mean? It's like, how can I be with like my neighbors, you know, and communicating, and what can we do in the space that we're currently in? Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's quite an important part as well, because then we're learning in that small space. Well, okay, so I might not yet be able to go and live on the land and do what I want to, but in terms of establishing relationships, you know, and understanding people's strengths and what people are good at, let's start small scale. And then when we're ready to go off grid, do you know what I mean, and the land becomes available, then we're like, right, do you want to come with? Do you know what I mean, or do you want to stay?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, and the reason that I spend a lot of my spare time at the community gardens and stuff is because, you know, networking locally, you know, I don't think I've paid for a plant or a seed in about 5 years, because I know so many people who are happy to swap and you know, give us stuff and I'll give them stuff the year after. We're very lucky here. I've got lovely neighbours and we've got a really nice relationship. I actually ended up cooking a turkey dinner for my various neighbours the other day because one of them got given a turkey and didn't know how to cook it, so they brought it to me. And we all shared it. It was lovely. So but you know, you do need to forge those relationships around you, and if you're going to live in a community, you need to know how to get on with lots of different people.
Definitely.
So I would say certainly to anybody who wants to move off grid but hasn't really got much experience, that the best things that you can do is network in your community, get to know people, who's around, what people can provide, and also to get out there and do some voluntary work. You know, most farms, if you ring them up and say, could I come and spend a day and see what you do, will be quite happy. And obviously, you know, there are things like community gardens, food banks, allotments, those sorts of things that, you know, you can go and volunteer at as well. But it is, you know, these things aren't going to come to you. You've got to go and find them. And I mean, we share quite a lot of opportunities like that we hear are available on the network, so that people have, you know, got those options. And one of the things that will be nice about the local groups is that we're going to try and contact a load of local farmers, so that then there'll be a list of people who people in that area can ring and say, you know, can I come and work for a day, or come and do some volunteering or learn about a particular skill.
And I think the thing is, when you're doing that, it's like you automatically meet like-minded individuals, don't you? So like we took a road trip, didn't we, to Leicester earlier this year?
Yes, we did.
I can't even remember. What's the name of the garden again? Lawrence will kill me for not remembering.
Stanford CSA.
Well done. Yeah, so Stanford CSA. So they have basically utilised a piece of land, haven't they? They use it, they're selling veg boxes, you know, in their local community, and people there are volunteering on the land in exchange for meals. Do you know what I mean? And it's, to me, I felt so inspired. I don't know about you, but when I left, it was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Do you know what I mean? What you can do with a piece of land. I was a bit gutted about the pigs, bless them, but they're very cute. But you know, just even if, I think if you feel that this is something you want to do, just visiting a space can really inspire you, can't it?
Yeah, or if you hear of any off-grid communities near you, you can always contact them. You know, the worst they can do is say no.
Exactly. And like, I mean, I suppose for me, my forage into this, if you like, on my star was going to stay in a community in Glastonbury over the summer. I think that must have been just before I joined you guys in the group. And I was just like, this is awesome. I was like, being with other people, do you know what I mean? Having other children around, and you know, just having those connections and being able to speak to people rather than sort of like sat in my four walls, do you know what I mean, talking myself. I was going to say I'm not crazy, but people
Is the jury still out?
Someone called me normal yesterday and I was just like, what? Like, oh my God, that's a bit.
Don't say that.
But yeah, so there are lots of like off-grid communities already, isn't there, out there, like established ones. But I suppose like the group is for people who are looking at like doing it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Who want to go off grid and are looking to find other like-minded individuals.
Yeah. And I suppose the unique thing about us is that it's all for people who don't want to be part of this system that we've been thrown into anymore. you know, and obviously the more of us there is, the better it will work outside of the system. You know, we're looking at a lot of things with like trade and bartering, and how once communities are set up, we're going to keep them in contact and we're going to keep everything moving, because they've got a much better chance of surviving if they all help each other.
Definitely. And I think that's a massive thing for this year. Like we've spoke about that before, haven't we, about where you've got communities around different places, and it's like if people want to travel between them, you know, or if one community is brilliant at growing carrots, for example, and the others at spinach, it's like, let's swap the carrots and spinach over. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, trading and bartering those skills. So how do you envisage this year in terms of like the network and communities?
Oh, I don't like to predict things. I will, as long as we move forward, I think that there's going to be several communities getting set up this summer and this spring. We've got investors that are ready to move now, so it's going to be, you know, down to them how fast things go, really, because the rest of us are sort of waiting on the investors to get land and then see who they want to come on it. But you know, equally, I want to look into a lot more this year about the accessing land without capital and seeing what we can provide and what ideas we can come up with there, because there's so many people that have got amazing intentions for the land, they just don't have the money to buy it.
Yeah. Fabulous. So what I'll do then, Kate, is I will put all the links, so if people want to come and join the network, they can. So just so people are aware as well, so when they come into the group, they have to fill out a questionnaire, don't they? And then the questionnaire basically directs them, or you direct them, don't you, into the group that you feel is right for them. So it's just a way of sort of like guiding people, isn't it, and directing them where they need to be.
Yeah, and we always say to people, you know, only give information that you're comfortable with us having at the end of the day. There's only there's a team of literally 4 of us that deal with information, so that it's not, you know, you're not going to have stuff banded about between everybody, and we obviously don't share anything without anybody's permission. But it is important that we have that, because if not, you know, we kind of look at ourselves a little bit like a dating service where, you know, we can match up people who want the same things. And obviously without the information, that's quite hard to do. So
yeah. And we have had as well, just to mention, we have had a couple of socials, haven't we, via Zoom, where people have actually had the chance to get to meet each other. The last one didn't go so well for me because my daughter kept waking up, and then my son, I was like, oh my God, I was like, someone else needs to take over. But what I like about doing those socials, it's like, it's not that there's one person. It's like, it's not just down to you, is it? Do you know what I mean? There's not one person in charge. There's like a few of us who co-facilitate, co-create, whatever you want to call it. But it's a really nice way to just get to know each other in person, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we've, you know, getting used to, you know, it took us as facilitators, you know, this year again, I've been so surprised. About a month in, I was having a month into opening the group, I was having a little bit of a meltdown because the admin that was helping me had gone off to Wales to find himself or something. So I suddenly was on my own for 3 weeks and didn't have a clue, because he did all the tech stuff, and I was like, oh no, I'm good at being nice to people and organising things, but I don't know how to do any of this. So that's been a very short education. But I basically said to the people in the group, I'm really struggling with this. Can anybody help?
Yeah.
And now we've got this fantastic team of, I think, about 10 of us that deal with all of the allocations and that facilitate all the groups. And yeah, I've been blown away by how involved people have wanted to get, and it's really inspired me as well to know that this is worth doing.
Yeah. And the thing is that even as people join the group, you know, there is room, isn't there, for more people to help and more people to support. So it's not like people are coming in and going, oh, well, it's already set up, there's nothing I can do. It's like, actually, we all have skills to bring to the group. Do you know what I mean? So if there's something you can add, you know, you can always let it, like, the group know, can't they?
Yeah, and obviously we're going to be taking on a lot more admins with opening the regional groups, because they're all going to need admins for their areas as well. So yeah, the team's going to be growing quite a bit this year.
It's exciting.
I know it is. You know, there've been times where I've kind of been like, oh, you know, what have I done? Or I've created all this work for myself, but actually, you know, I'm not a technical person. I don't like spending time. I'd much rather be out planting vegetables and flowers and stuff. You know, I'd rather be outdoors. But for me, it's a means to an end. And at the end of the day, if this is going to benefit people and it's going to bring them together to be able to live that dream, they've got more chance of doing it together than you have on your own. And I think that this year has probably made people realise that a lot more, that we do need each other, and we need each other for, you know, for the support and the guidance that we're not really getting from our government right now.
Yeah. Definitely. Right. I will pop the links, like I said, in the comments below. So if anyone wants to come and join us over on the Offgrid Network, then they can do. Thank you so much, Kate, for your time. I truly.
You're very welcome, darling.
And thank you so much for setting up the group. I'm so excited.
You're very, very welcome. And, you know, here's to another amazing year.
Thanks, lovely.
Thank you.